Welcome to the first podcast episode of Frio Doctor Uncensored, where no topic is off limits and no question goes unanswered. I'm Maria Vusic, and today we're diving straight into the political arena. On the 19th of February, Tannock Hall played host to the Great Debate, a high-stakes showdown where candidates vying for your vote in the upcoming state elections on March the 9th went head-to-head. Policies were challenged, promises were made, and the audience didn't hold back. Joining us today are two voices from the heart of the community, Sally from Beaconsfield and Dominique from South Fremantle. They were in the room. They saw it all unfold, and they've got plenty to say about what went down. Introducing Sally. Sally, welcome to Frio Doctor Uncensored.
Oh, thanks, Maria. My name's Sally. I live in Beaconsfield. Lived here since 1999. I've always been a left view socialist kind of voter, and in the last 4 to 5 years, I've noticed that our government, with the mandates and the lockdowns and the pressure on all of this environmental change, they're wanting us, to lose our freedoms. And so I'm here to have a chat with you about how my views have changed.
Okay, so last Wednesday you went to the Great Debate at Notre Dame. Can you just fill us in terms of why did you go? What motivated you?
I've actually never been to one, and I was really curious. I wanted to go and see what they were going to talk about. I hadn't seen some of the new candidates. In our 26 years of being in Fremantle, we have never seen a Labor door knocker, not once. Never had a chat, never actually even seen Simone. So I wanted to go and see what it was all about.
Do you think that, last Wednesday, the Greens and the Independents were basically pointing the finger at Simone McGurk and saying, you Labor, take Fremantle for granted. Do you feel that way in terms of that nobody bothered to knock on your door because you are from the hood, one of the suburbs?
Absolutely. I think I've said for quite some time now that, and I even said this before when Jim McGuinty lost his seat, actually. I said they take us for granted, and we're a safe Labor seat, and literally nothing will change in Fremantle being under a safe Labor seat.
So is that still your view after hearing Simone speak last Wednesday?
I don't think it's a safe Labor seat now. I think she's in peril, but I also don't think that the alternatives are going to be any better. So I'm actually very concerned about how we're going to fare.
The session started. It started on time, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But it took literally a half an hour before we actually got started.
I know.
Simply because we had all the rules.
There's rules. And it was such a strange, it was absolutely fascinating, actually, from a point of view of coming in and saying, okay, we're all adults. Yes, we're all adults. We know that. We don't need someone to tell us that. And we're in a debate. Well, actually, it wasn't really a debate because there was nothing debated. It was just questions that they wanted to bring and information that they wanted to present. There was no debate. And anytime there was anything that sort of set out that got a little bit robust, it was shut down and squeaky toys were made and yellow cards were raised. We were a bunch of children. And then we had old men in there acting like dibber-dobbers. When did Australians become dibber-dobbers? It was actually very embarrassing to watch.
What happened?
You didn't see it?
Yeah.
There was a man who stood up and said, excuse me, that man in the red shirt is filming this, and you said the rules was there's no filming. I just was, what are we in? Are we in children? Like, people have their own right to self-determination. It should have actually been filmed and broadcasted. Why not? She mentioned that she didn't want it to be broadcasted because it might go viral. What's she so worried about? Mm. If this is a great debate, then let it be a debate. It wasn't a debate, it was an echo chamber.
All right. Now, we've got Dominique here. Mm. So before we go to Dominique, Sally, let's go through the candidates. Sally Boland, I've got to say that's Natasha
Boland
Boland from the Animal Justice Party.
Yes.
I've got to say I've always had a soft spot for animals, and I've got to say also that as much as I do support farmers, I would like to see the live trade, the sheep trade, to be phased out. I really do. I think we can do a lot better there. So she pulled at my heartstrings because she was so organic and so involved, and she was very, very honest. So she really resonated with me. Now, let's go through Felicity Townsend, and then you've got Kate Hewlett, and then Simone. What were your views on Natasha?
I mean, she spoke beautifully, actually. She's obviously very kind. She had a great passion for animals. My view was that she brought up the Vedicare. I was a little bit shocked, to be honest. I have an absolute passion for animals as well. We have a menagerie at our house. We love our animals. There's no saying that. But we had, she bringing up Vedicare as her main form. I mean, we've got people that can't put food on the table, who can't turn the electricity on, who can't afford to have, clothe their children. And her view was this. I was a little bit shocked, to be honest. I agree with you. The live sheep trade, and this is where people get confused between environmental issues and, wanting to do the right thing, or saying that you're one way and you're another. The live sheep trade is a blight. It really is. We can set up our own industry. Natasha's not interested in setting up a new industry. She wants to get rid of animals on farms. I'm not for that. So we need that's a thing where I would never be interested in voting for her for that reason, because we can do small regenerative farming, which is extremely good for the environment. It can capture carbon into the ground. The food is top quality that comes into our door. We could have abattoirs that are set up with ethical euthanizing of animals, and there's many small farms that do this in WA. So I think that we also have a wool industry. I'm super passionate, as you can see. I'm knitting, crocheting, and I'm passionate about the wool industry. We do not have anywhere we can process wool in WA. That is disgusting. All our wool goes overseas to be processed, and that was done through the Labor Party.
Okay.
So that's my view on Natasha.
Okay. Felicity
she was very well spoken. I think she was highly aggressive. Again, which I don't actually mind, to be honest. She showed her passion. But all of her policies and everything are to do with climate. Now, I have read a lot of information. There's a fantastic book called Climate Change, the Facts 2025. It's written by numerous internationally renowned scientists, and talking about how there's this massive push for a climate change, and this, we're in a crisis. There is no crisis. And so I've done my research. I don't align with her values. And I don't think it's good. It's going to be good for business.
All right. So I've got her pamphlet, because I've got numerous pamphlets from the Greens, and
in nice, glossy, covered, non-recyclable paper. Might add.
Okay. So the slogan is, "We're fighting for you." And one of them is housing, a response to the housing crisis. And her party is going to freeze and cap rents, improve renters' rights, and build more public and affordable homes. Did she address that as a policy?
Absolutely not. There was literally nothing talked about other than the environment on the night. Wouldn't even know that was her policy.
All right. So what are your views? Is that a reasonable policy, freeze and cap rents?
Well, who's going to pay for that? So this is
Correct.
The whole thing. So where's this money coming from? Is it we're going to increase our already astronomical taxes to fund this? And then where are we going to put those people? We've got a development coming down the road in Beaconsfield where there's going to be 30% public housing. It's going to be a ghetto. Not to mention the amount of people in there, where there's been absolutely no studies done on the traffic. There's been no improvements on the road. There's no infrastructure in terms. There's literally no shop within walking distance. How's that going to work? I want to know. I want to know how that's going to work.
Well, I think we all do. The next one was bring down the cost of living by making groceries cheaper and public schools free. I actually thought public schools were free.
Public schools are not free.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to pay a fee to get your children to school, and they're quite expensive.
But when we first started government-funded schooling way back, maybe 70, 80, 90 years ago, they were free.
They're not free.
So gradually, you've had to pay for something that you were taxed to pay.
Correct.
So once again, bring down the cost of living.
How is she going to do that? And this is the thing. I think a lot of it's hot air. You say, I'm going to bring down the cost of living. How are you going to achieve that? Where is your actual strategy and your business plan behind this? How are you going to fund it? Because I don't want any more of my tax dollars going into this sort of thing. It doesn't benefit me.
Well, I think unless you have got a policy and you're talking some numbers against it, you're not going to make sense. I think there is no common sense in these two so far. The third one is stop new fossil fuel projects in WA and ban fracking statewide. I thought there is a moratorium in Western Australia on fracking.
There is a moratorium, but it does, Felicity was right, it does have gaps in it. And this is the whole, slippery, slidey, there's no sort of transparency. We've done this, but we quite haven't done that. We don't quite know where we sit, but look, we found a loophole, we can get around that. And this is where, Felicity was quite correct in that. Again, when people say we don't want to hurt the environment, I don't believe in climate change crisis, but I don't particularly want fracking.
Okay, cool. So the next one was make seeing the GP free and improve access to healthcare services in WA. Really?
So GP is expensive to go and see if you haven't got Medicare. So it is expensive. It can cost anywhere up to $100 for a visit, and a lot of people don't have that money. I don't know how they're going to pay for it. I don't know where the business plan is, the strategy, where's the money going to come from. They have all these grandiose ideas. They can't even get enough GPs trained. How are they going to do that?
I think that point of view is important, Sally, simply because we know that Big Pharma have captured our government. We actually, it's not that the ratepayers or the taxpayers don't pay enough tax. We are very much big tax people. We're getting taxed big time.
Huge.
It is the fact that the big corporations like Big Pharma, and I think the big medical people too, because it's corporatised now.
Well, we have a medical industrial complex.
Yeah.
And the reason why you've got so many problems with GPs is because APRA, which is a non-elected government body, have extraordinary powers over these people, and they send out all sorts of information to doctors threatening them with their registration if they step outside. So, they're in a tricky position.
Yeah. So there are lots of other things happening behind the scenes. Before I move on to the other candidate, she does say here, we can't keep voting for the same two parties and expecting a different result. The Greens will take on the big corporations, tax them, and fund the things that everyone needs. What's your response?
It's such a lofty, again, honestly, she's coming up again, huge corporations who are billionaires. How does she expect that's going to happen? Unless she's got some sort of total power, good luck.
Okay.
Good
so
luck.
They're really empty
Absolutely.
promises.
It's unachievable.
Yeah. The next candidate that we're going to have some feedback from you, Sally, is Kate Hewlett. She is community independent.
Well, is she?
Well, I'm going to put this to you. I'm going to put this to you, Sally. She says here, the 6-month community consultation which led to my endorsement has helped shape my mandate to represent your views, your aspirations and your concerns. Well, if it was 6 months in duration, I didn't see anything. I wonder, who did she consult with?
I don't know. I certainly have never heard of her until her posters, which were put up way before any other candidate, which shows that she's got a lot of money behind her. Obviously, she's been funded by the Climate 200, which, interestingly, people say it's a crowdfunding, but we all know who actually started that. And so you can't be completely independent when you've got a group that have very, very strong and clear goals and values in mind, that you have to pay your dues.
Well, it would seem to me, if you take note of the Western Australian articles and other information out there online, she's had, 30,000, 50,000 contributions coming through.
Well, she recently just had another 30,000 come through.
Okay. So when you get that type of funding, and you know that the Holmes of Court family are involved with Climate 200. I don't know about being independent, and I think sometimes a lot of these words, and independent is one of them that gets overused.
Correct.
There's a half-truth in there.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a half-truth in there.
I mean, that's politics. There's half-truths everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's no real transparency again.
So I don't know which community she is representing that gave her that endorsement, but certainly the hoods in that's the suburbs of Fremantle. Although we've seen her placards, but there's plenty of people who don't know who she is, and we don't know what she stands for.
Correct.
She said also here, this is not a political party campaign. This is people campaign, and I need your support to make change. Help me take our Fremantle values to state parliament and advocate for us as a community. I mean, are you kidding me? What are your values? What are your views? What are your policies? How are you going to fund them?
Correct. And it's interesting because one of the things that really I really heard very clearly at the ironic great debate was that she said, you come to me with your ideas and I'll get some people to have a look into it and then we'll do something about it. I thought, oh my gosh, she doesn't have any policies.
That's
None.
true.
Zero.
None.
She doesn't even know how she hasn't got a vision. She hasn't got any drive. So she's basically wanting to bring the community's ideas, and from that debate, we can all see that it was very much to do with the environment and this climate change or crisis that apparently we're under. It made me very, very uncomfortable.
Well, all I can say is, once again, I'm not making this up. This is from the pamphlet, and I've probably had a half a dozen dropped in my letterbox, for climate, people and integrity. Once again, kernels of truth, but no substance.
Correct.
If we're looking at totally phasing out fossil fuels, I want to know what your plan is in terms of green energy. People forget that 100 years ago, I think 1880, 1890, the average daily wage for a unskilled labourer was about $10 or $11 when you sort of just change it for the time spans.
Of course, yeah.
That was a very low wage,
Very.
which meant that we really did have poverty. And the one key factor that changed things within a generation or two was cheap, efficient energy.
Yes.
And that was fossil fuels.
Correct.
And I would say my view on being able to build communities, being able to give people a sustainable future is going to have to be consistent supply of cheap, available energy.
Correct.
We all want to save the environment, but I can tell you Kate Hewlett is not going to save the environment,
No.
nor am I. However, if we really did things differently, we would be putting our policy out, we would be costing our policy, and we would be honest and transparent in the sense that if we went with Kate Hewlett's solution, give me your ideas, but I know you already got an idea what you want to do. You want to ban fossil fuels, outright ban, done. 2030, you're done.
Yep.
I want to know what the transition's going to be, how much it's going to cost, and what is the opportunity cost of going into that solution. Because I can tell you it'll be catastrophic.
Well, we just look at what's happened over in Victoria under the Labor government, where they actually shut down all their power plants down there over there using fossil fuels. I work with a lot of different health facilities over there, and they had some terribly high winds a little while ago, and they lost power to the sites for 5 days. So we in summer, very, very hot, very uncomfortable. They had hospitals that did not have any internet, any phone coverage. They couldn't even get their staff on site if they needed them. They couldn't call an ambulance, so no one could call an ambulance in the community because there was no power. So that under the Labor government of getting rid of fossil fuels without having a contingency hasn't worked out so well for them. We've already we heard Simone McGurk saying, oh, we just got rid of Collie. Oh, that's wonderful. So when we're now having rolling power outages, I was
Correct.
talking to a colleague of mine who lives in Queen's Rock. 24 hours, 48 hours expected rolling power outages. It's going well. Going really well.
I think also the community don't always make the connection between our outages and this green energy, which is the politicians are generally from either party, as far as I'm concerned, and certainly Kate's not going to be a factor in there at all, is that this is going to be a factor of life. Get used to it, simply because we will not be able to have enough wind turbines and solar farms, which are an absolute blight on our environment. Right. If you're an environmentalist, there is no way you can support that blight.
Absolutely.
And not only that, the green energy is really not green because there is an opportunity cost associated with it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this with the cost of setting up wind farms, the fact that those blades alone don't degrade at all, ever. They can fly off, they can kill people, they kill huge amounts of birds, huge. They disrupt and interrupt whole environmental areas and little sub environments and subclimates. They are just so destructive, and yet people that were pushing this. We don't have a contingency of what happens when we've got a blackout.
I know that with green energy is a direct current. It's AC. And this was a debate that was started with the two big inventors of electricity was Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison.
Edison, correct. Yeah.
So Thomas Edison was direct current, and you would have houses, warehouses and buildings burned down overnight because you can't control it. There's no dial. You can't control it. It's only one surge coming in. With Nikola Tesla's alternative, which was alternative current, correct, you had a dial.
AC, yeah.
And hence AC became the standard. One of the issues that they do have when you're integrating green technology now coming into our grid, which is never was designed because it's an AC. Correct. The green is a DC, that's direct current, and hence you have these surges. So there's a lot that needs to be looked at. I think majority of people are green. They are for the environment. Right. They're understanding that they need to make changes. But I think this green message that's been touted by candidates like Felicity and Kate are not the solution. I agree.
I think there's two conversations here, actually. I think nobody wants to see the environment destroyed. Nobody. No one wants to see animals hurt. It's the same kind of thing. We all want to see a good outcome for the environment. That doesn't mean we have to buy into a solution that isn't good for the environment. And people don't generally want to do their research. And we saw that again, time and again at the great debate. They were just speaking. They're just what they've heard on the TV. They don't actually understand it. They haven't done their research. They haven't listened to anything outside their own echo chamber.
Indeed.
And so it's really hard to kind of get through to these people saying, well, yeah, we don't want the environment destroyed either, but this is not a good solution. And it's not good for people. So it's not good for the environment or our citizens.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Sally, the last candidate, that was the Honourable Simone McGurk, our sitting Labor member. What were your views on her?
I mean, she's very slick. She's a politician, She's very on target. She's very professional. She was on point. She did, she came there and said her piece and did what she had to do. It's frustrating for me because I brought up the fact that she was obviously she was very polished. She's a politician. She was on point. She went, she went around. She didn't answer a lot of the questions or sideswiped, or we had a few half truths. We're doing this for the fracking, for example. We've got a moratorium, Oh, yeah, you do, but there's some loopholes here that haven't been covered. So I just felt like there was no genuine passion for Fremantle, that she really is just there to do a job. I don't feel like she's connected. Absolutely do not feel like she's connected to any of her constituents. I mean, we've never seen her.
Well, look, to be fair, I'm going to get back to her pamphlet, and her pamphlet says, as a government, we understand there are cost of living pressures, so we have provided over $2,100 in power bill credits, as well as kept increases to fees and charges at or below inflation. What do you say to that?
Well, where does that money come from? It comes from taxpayers. That's our own money. It's ridiculous. How about not tax us?
Yeah.
I'll keep my money and I'll spend it the way I choose to. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. This is the thing. I mean, in her pamphlet, she had, we're going to get 4,400 new nurses. Where from? So where is Simone going to get 4,400 new nurses?
She hasn't certainly rolled out the detail.
No,
it's a slogan. Once again, it's a slogan.
Agreed. And so we've got 4,400 nurses that they need because we're critically short of them. In 2022, I think it was, the Australian College of Nurses the president came out and said that 25,000 nurses walked off and said, I'm no longer nursing in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, that's kind of unheard of, right? Mm. If each of those nurses had just 10 years, and I can tell you that most of them had 30 plus years, if just 10 years, that's 250,000 years of experience that has just walked out the door. Mm. And now she wants to bring in 4,400 new nurses with zero experience or experience from a third world country. Mm. How is that going to be good for our healthcare system?
It's not. Now, I'm going to I want to bring you an opportunity to talk about why we lost so much nursing knowledge and practice, simply because I listen to everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think, perhaps the government over the last 5 years, particularly during that pandemic, were so heavy-handed, were so egregious towards individuals. I know I'm in the construction industry, and we're an essential service, and I know how much it impacted people's lives and their livelihoods and how they were treated. Can you speak to that? I don't want you to make it a chapter and verse, but obviously this is healthcare, and this concerns everybody.
Correct. I mean, they did it very cleverly. They started off with tier 1 nurses, tier 2 nurses, tier 3 nurses. So tier 1 nurses were the nurses in your big tertiary hospitals. And what we saw is the public didn't come out and support them. Now, if the nurses had all stood up and said, we're not doing this, it would have been over and done with, the mandates. Because you can't have a health care force that don't want to go ahead. It happened in England. They had 100,000 nurses stand up and say, we're not doing this. And then it went, okay. So my thing is that it was all about waiting for the research to come out. So the trials data to come out to make an informed decision. Anyone that was given an injection over the last 5 years and wasn't given informed consent, because they didn't have the trial data. Now that data is readily available and people can go and find it themselves if they want to. But what's happened is that we lost 3,000 nurses who stood up and said, you know what, I don't want to do this for my body. I don't feel I don't want to participate in a trial. I want to see, I've got bodily autonomy. We are taught as nurses that bodily autonomy is number one. And to violate that is it's illegal. So to then turn around and say to nurses that you're no longer a valuable part of our community because you won't participate in this trial, it's been difficult. And a lot of those nurses that now can get their jobs back, and a lot can't because they spoke out publicly and AHPRA prosecuted them or went to prosecute them, so they've lost their registration.
Okay, so there's a lot of misinformation, isn't there?
Correct.
A lot of misinformation.
It is multifaceted. It was done very cleverly. They thought this out very well. And once the nurses fell, then the rest of the community did. I mean, they started with the nurses. Yeah.
Thank you, Sally, for that, because I didn't know how deep that ran. Because there's another little promise here from Simone's government, and that is they want to provide or implement a nation-leading plan for plastics and end logging in native forests, and they want to retire state-owned coal-fired power and are on track to reduce our government emissions by 80% by 2030. For me, what's missing here is what are we going to lose? I'm sure they're going to go helter-skelter to this end,
Yes.
but what are they going to destroy along the way?
It's a good question. We don't know. We actually don't know. I mean, I'm sure they've got a very good plan for this, and it's very well thought out because of what's happened in the last 5 years. They know what they're doing. I'll speak to the plastic just very quickly. I took a photo of this down in our local, shops. We around each bollard is a plastic call flute that says we're moving away from plastics from the state government. They're using plastic to say they're moving away from plastic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All of these plastic signs we see, they're all call flute. They cannot be recycled. All used by the Greens. We're in a climate change crisis, right? They speak out by sides of their mouths. They say one thing and do something else completely different. If they're going to ban coal, what is going to be the consequences of that, and how we're growing rapidly? I mean, you see houses for miles and miles and miles down the freeway. How are they going to get electricity to them?
Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, I think the average person is going to have to accept a lower standard of living.
Absolutely.
I know that governments are not being transparent if they're going along the green route, total green route, simply because if you don't have gas or electricity to your home, what the hell are you supposed to do? How are you going to cook your dinner?
Absolutely.
I mean, 70, 80 years ago when my people came out of the old Yugoslavia, I remember my mum saying to me, go into the back shed and fire up the wood-fired heater.
Yep. Oh, they'll ban that too, because smoke apparently is, terrible for the environment.
But I know it was dirty, it was hard work, it was inconsistent. We couldn't sometimes afford the wood, so I'd have to go down to Parmelia Park and down to South Beach and collect some twigs.
Correct.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember that. I don't want to go back there.
No.
And I think the average person doesn't really know how bad this is going to get, because in that short period of time, it's only 5 years to 2030, there is no way in the world we will have a cheap, efficient electricity supply.
Absolutely. Correct.
But with me on this one, the average working person is not, their standard of living is going to be eroded, but not the elites.
Absolutely. Oh, no,
not the elites. No, of course
not.
The 200 club, Climate 200 club, not the politicians. No. The elites will continue on with their standard of living.
Absolutely. Flying around in their, private jets and,
correct,
across to, we just saw our council mayor fly across to, how many times last year to
Canberra.
But apparently it's okay because it's carbon offset, which means that she's used council rate money to pay a third party to say, oh, we've reduced our carbon credit. How?
Not only that, who is that third party?
Correct. And where is it going and what is it doing? It seems it's kind of, if you were a skeptic, think it was money laundering. I'm just saying.
Now, Sally, we've covered the candidates from the great debate. We're having a debate of the debate that never happened. I never got an opportunity to ask my question also. But, there was a comment passed by someone who slipped it in to basically saying, there was a few on the police station. Why is the police station built where it's going to be built? It should have been built in another location down there more towards the west end of Fremantle. And it's going to have so many floors. It's going to have so much concrete. And what about net zero? Well, we just built the Civic Centre. I think there's a number of generations who are going to be paying for that carbon outpouring.
Absolutely.
What do you say with where that police station's going to go?
I think it's the most bizarre location, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I just think if you've got criminals coming in and it's a lockup, it's kind of the most strange location. It makes you wonder what conversations went on with the government and the local council and the police to want to have it there.
Well, you know what? There's the irony, and I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to move over to Dominique because I want to get her take on the candidates as well. The interesting thing with why the police station is located where it is now is that's the old Stan Riley Centre.
That's right.
So the land belonged to the government. The building was bequeathed by someone to the council, and it was earmarked that it would be a shelter for homeless men over 45.
Right.
So in 2017, our current honourable member for Upper House, Dr. Brad Pettit, they decided to demolish it. There was quite an outcry with the community.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
But no, we're going to demolish it and we're going to consolidate our programs with St. Pat's. And, well, what did you expect the government to do? They went, beauty, I'll have that land. I'm going to build a police station. Now, had he been thinking about the homeless, had he been thinking about the ratepayers, and had he been listening, he would have not done that, simply because they would have had to locate the police station back where it was supposed to go, more towards the West End.
So again, I asked the question because I always think, what were the conversations it had? Was it done deliberately? What deal did Brad Pettit make? He wouldn't have made that without having some understanding of what he was doing.
Look, I've got to be honest, I served as a councillor for part of the time of Brad Pettit as my mayor, and I can tell you, he doesn't know 1 and 1 equals 1 + 1 = 2. I'm pretty sure he might think it might equal 3 or 5 or 10 or
Right.
Not very good on the numbers, and that's my biggest issue with anyone from the Greens, a Kate Hewlett, a Green Independent or a Teal, who knows? They don't care about the money. They just don't care, and I don't think the Labor Party care about the money.
Oh no, they don't. Absolutely don't.
They just go, well, it's okay. We'll just print some more money, or we've all got a tax bracket creep as well.
Correct.
So nobody worries about the money.
No, they don't. Except the person the people that have to pay the taxes,
which is generally your working class people.
Yeah. I think that it's like I said, it's a very strange site. We've got an oval, we've got a community centre, a hub, and they're putting a police station there. They've got to have other plans. I'm just, I'm such a cynic now. I just go, they know what they're doing. They know they're doing it. I sometimes
think that they don't. They think they do, but they don't, because the 4 years I spent on council, I know that opportunity cost and even assessing risks, it's a foreign language to them.
We know
they don't care.
They know they don't care, but let's look at it. They're puppets. They play a part so that they can get themselves into the local government or the West Australian government. I mean, we've seen that. We've seen that with Josh Wilson. We've seen that with Brad Pettit. We know that they play their part within the council. Safe Labor seat, let's put you up into state politics. So I believe they do know what they're doing. They're doing a deal in some way that will benefit their future. So that's how you get something like this happening.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
totally
that's what I'm saying. They know what they're doing. They don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I totally understand they don't care. But they're doing it with something else in mind. There's an agenda.
It's not for us, that's for sure.
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, why would you put a police station next to a football station oval? It doesn't make any sense.
Unless the plan for the current plans are really not conducive for that land anyway.
So that's what I'm saying. So we've got a big development that they're going to do that will actually wreck our World Heritage listed prison, jail, Fremantle jail. They know what they're doing. They just do, and it's they speak out both sides of their mouth.
All right, Sally. Before I move on to Dominique, tell me, how would you rate the candidates from the great debate that never occurred? How would you rate them on their presentation? Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
Oh, I honestly think they're all the same. I wouldn't vote for any of them. And presentation-wise, I think probably the last rating would be Kate Hewlett. She wasn't obviously as polished as everybody else. She didn't have any policies, that sort of stuff.
So you'd put her last?
I would put her last, just
Okay.
based on her. And I think she was quite nervous, which is understandable. I get all of that. But given that she hasn't got any policies, and she clearly just stated, I don't know of any policies, so you tell me what your policies are and we'll work on it.
Okay. And she's, and I think with that spiel, and once again, I don't know the woman. I can only judge her on the pamphlets.
Yes.
And also from that meeting on last Wednesday.
Same.
A Climate 200, it's just crowdfunding. Once again, you might have worked at some point in time. It doesn't work with me anymore. I've been sold a lemon so many times. Homes Court only give me 2%. I'm sorry, he's a billionaire. I'm sorry, the fact that you've got a billionaire in your stable. Who's your second last?
Probably Natasha, just because I just don't align with anything she has to say, Okay. But I think she spoke beautifully. She obviously has a very gorgeous personality, and she's, obviously embodies what her values are. Very much so. Yep.
So third.
Yep.
Who's the next one?
Honestly, between the two of them, Felicity was quite aggressive. I don't mind a robust debate. But also Simone, you kind of know what you're going to get. We know what Labor are like. We know what you're going to get. No changes. Nothing that. Felicity, I wouldn't trust Felicity. She was very, it was interesting because she was so self-assured that she was going to have the balance of power in the upper house.
Well, she's Brad Pettit's candidate.
Yeah. And I think with Kate there, I think Kate's there really just to split the vote. I honestly believe that. And it was so interesting talking to them going, we're going to vote, we're going to preference Kate, and then Labor's going to preference us. It's just a three-way circle of, self-preferencing. There is no difference.
But knowing what you know, and you've done an analysis on all the candidates, if you had to cast that vote, because I don't know you for a long time, Sally, but I'm assuming you wouldn't throw your vote away.
I'm not going to throw my vote away.
Okay.
I'm not voting for them.
You're not voting for them.
I honestly, after that debate, it wasn't even debate. It was an echo chamber. I would never vote for Labor for what they did with their mandates. It would never happen again. And I come from a very, very Labor-orientated family, lifelong. My dad was a life member of the MUA, strong unions, very strong Labor. My dad would be rolling in his grave. And we have got the Greens who are going to destroy us. I can't vote for them. Okay,
so one last question. Which direction are you going to lean in terms of your vote for this state election?
I'm still doing some research, to be honest. I'm looking at, there's a new Liberal candidate. I've never voted Liberal in my life. It's just crazy. I've gone from this left-leaning socialist person to, hang on a minute. And so, I'm doing some research. There's the firearms candidate. There's
the Shooters Party.
The issue, the Shooters Party. There is the Christian Party. I'm going to do some more research. I haven't done my research on those. And I'm at that point now where I'm not going to throw my vote away. I'm going to do my research, and when I feel comfortable, then I'll cast my vote. But I can guarantee you, Labor will never get my vote again, and I could never vote for the Greens.
All right. Thank you so much, Sally. Dominique, you've been so patient.
Hi, Maria.
Hi. Now Sally's just going to start crocheting. She's going to be listening.
I was enjoying that conversation. I thought Sally had some really good points there.
Well, I just thought I should really have a shirt that says I knit and crochet and I vote, given that Roger Cook said we all should stick to our knitting. So, Roger, that's for you. And I'll have a shirt made up, I think, at some stage.
Oh, you're a laugh. Now, Dominique, I'm going to do the same thing with you, Dominique, and that is you were there at the Great Debate.
Great debacle.
Great debacle. Okay. So we're down to you would vote for the Labor Party. That's not to say that you will, but we're talking about the Great Debate.
Just in that room. Just in that room. That's what I was saying. She, for me, was the best out of that bunch there. Yeah. But she won't get my vote. No, it'll definitely be one of the three that weren't there.
Okay.
You know, I've done some homework and also trying to get through to these people. Like, I wanted to ask, I had about 4 or 5 questions for all of those candidates. So I went through and see who had a phone number. I think there was one candidate or 2 candidates maybe that had phone numbers that I could ring to ask these questions, get quick answers. And it was the shooters, the shooters, fishers and farmers party. He answered the phone straight away and answered all my questions, and I was really happy about that. But I still, 5 days later, haven't got an answers from Felicity, haven't got an answer from Kate Hewlett. And yeah, I'm just, that tells you, what does that tell you? You want to talk to these people, you want to know where they stand, but there's no communication.
They really only talk about their slogans, anything that scratches the surface that you want to get a little bit deeper in. I've got to say that what I would have, if I had the opportunity, I would have asked the question from Simone McGurk, where is the $100 million film studio that your previous boss promised us? You know, I would have liked to have said, can you make a commitment tonight that you'll take over the Roundhouse? Because I can tell you, Mayor Fitzharding and this council is going to be, we're not going to have a historic site because they're not interested.
There seems to be a lot of lack of interest in our heritage buildings, doesn't there?
Yeah, and our heritage, without heritage in Fremantle, we're nothing as a city.
No, I mean, that's what attracts people to Fremantle.
Absolutely.
It's the beautiful buildings, the character, the history.
Correct.
You know, without, you know, if we lose that.
Yeah. So if Simone gets a little bit offended that people say you take Fremantle for granted, I think it's evident.
Oh, for
you
sure.
know, evident.
For sure.
Now, you know, I think the amount of heritage that we have to look after as a council is quite burdensome at times. Although I can say that, you know, the millions that have gone over the last 10 years with the new civic centre and the selling off of the assets and so forth, you know, it was Brad Pettit while he was mayor. He started it. Fitzharding is continuing on it. We've lost tens of millions of dollars. So in some respects, we have done the wrong thing in the fact that we've lost these millions to private enterprise to develop one building called Civic Centre.
Yeah. So who would you have voted for, Marielle?
Who would I have voted for?
Yeah, how would you have gone?
Out of those 5?
Yeah.
Do you know, I probably would have gone for Simone McGurk because at least I've got a well-trodden path to her office.
Yeah.
There is a structure there that you can contribute. They may not listen to you, but at least I know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, and I've got to say, when I was having all these issues with my neighbour, that when I escalated it to her office, her secretary was really good. He was really on it. And then community housing seemed to kick them up the butt.
Okay.
And things started to move a bit. I mean, it wasn't brilliant, but it was something.
So I always put...
I give her that.
Absolutely. And you know what? I put myself in that situation where I would say, well, at least there's a system there.
Yeah.
But Kate, and then I often... And
very
this is the way
wishy-washy.
I thought myself, you don't even have a system.
No.
You're saying, laissez-faire, let's see how this goes. Got a good idea? Shoot it over.
Yeah.
Life's not like that.
No,
We need some structure. Natasha, I still think people like Natasha are very important to us because it balances off, you know, we all love animals, but I do think she plays a role. So I'd like to see her there.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's where I am at. Sally, last statement. What would you like to say?
Oh, I would really like for a proper debate to happen. I would really love to have all the candidates there that we can ask the questions. The way you can actually do it really fairly is just have people write their questions at the beginning, chuck it into a hat.
Pick them out.
Pick it out.
Awesome.
So then you go, well, that's just a luck of the draw. If you get your vote, stand up. If thing comes out, you get up, you get speak have your
I like it.
say. And I think then they are put on the spot because a lot of the questions, I have no doubt, the questions that Chrissy gave to them was all, I mean, like you said, with the, talking about the Climate 200, it was all very controlled and contrived and, put in a nice little box and popped away so that we don't have to touch that again. And I would really want a really, really good debate. I don't mind robust debate. Let people have their say. Let people be passionate.
Absolutely. Let them be adults.
Absolutely. If you're not happy having your hat in the ring, don't get in the ring. If you're going to throw your hat in the ring and be this person saying, I'm going to do all of this, and then you say, oh, no, I don't want you to do that, ask that question, well, then you shouldn't be in there.
Correct. Because for me, Felicity and Kate, you ain't going to do much more than the climate slogans.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, if you gain any power, I am fearful that I'm going to have more energy blackouts, because you'll be okay because you'll have your nose in the trough and I'll be paying for it. But the rest of us poor working class people,
well, a lot of this is all
chances.
about control, and to me it's kind of like going, oh, it's the pick of a bad bunch. And saying we should be happy with that. No, we cannot be happy with these candidates. We can't.
Yeah.
And it's all about control. We've had that through the mandates. They're going to squeeze and make it uncomfortable for you, make it hard for you, make your life difficult while they're living the life. Like, no, on our taxpayers' money.
Exactly. Totally.
I mean, yeah.
Dominique, last statement.
I totally agree with what Sally's just said. What a great idea. Let's have our own debate. Let's create our own one that's fair and balanced and unbiased.
Well, thank you so much, Dominique and Sally. You are from the hoods, and you represent the common sense average person out there who gets up every morning and does their best. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maria.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on our very first audio podcast of Frio Doctor Uncensored. The great debate is over, but the conversation should continue. Choose a candidate who truly represents your values and the future you want to see. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave us a review.